Hello everyone, and welcome to a little series which I'm going to be calling Short and Sharp. It's where I'm going to give you short and sharp reviews / descriptions of some of these graphic novels. I'm not going to do any spoilers because I don't want to spoil the story for you, but I'm going to show you them, and so if you want to, you can go pick them up yourself and read them for yourself. So, the collection which I'm going to be going through is a collection made by Eaglemoss Collections. So what this company does is that they release every fortnightly a Batman graphic novel, primarily from the New 52, and they're meant to be through the most exciting first, and they will keep going on and eventually end with year 100. So I don't know if they're going to end with year 100 or if it's popular then they might keep going. But what you can see is called the DC Legend of Batman. This was the first book released for 0 Year Part 1, and 2 weeks later they released 0 Year Part 2. I can understand why they did Part 1 and Part 2. It is a pretty big story, but from a company point of view, if you have Part 1, it's going to probably, and you enjoy it, you're going to hook people into Part 2. So, and before I go through a bit of we look through these books, this book really got me into Batman properly. So I seen it at news agency, I thought, oh, I like Batman, I picked it up, read it, I thought I must have finished reading 0 Year, read Part 2, and I just wanted to keep going after that. So they really hooked me in. So every fortnight I get a new graphic novel. So what I'm going to be doing in these reviews, because I have 2 books to go through, this might be longer than other ones that I will do. But I'm going to go through the front, the back, a little bit description of the bits and pieces, some stories that are in there. I'm not going to go into too much detail, but just so you know what's actually in the books. So we'll start with the first book. So 0 Year Part 1. So we see we have Batman on the front, and I don't know if you can see it on the camera, but I have a little scratch down there. So this was the only one left at the news agency. I thought, oh, I might as well pick it up. It wasn't that dear. And now, because I want it, now I am a collector. Now that it doesn't bug me too much, but I'd love to have a undamaged book, but I'm not too stressed about that. So we have the front and we have the back. So we have Batman on there, Volume 1, 0 Year Part 1, and we have a little description, but we see what's actually in the book. So what's in the book, what comics are actually in the book. And we have Batman, number 21 to 26. So Batman's 21 to 26 are in this book, and chronological order, number 1. So once we have all the books, you put them in they don't come in chronological order. So this one comes in number 1, Part 2 is obviously number 2, and the next one is chronological order. It's not number 3. It's a different one. So, but the purpose is, so on the side you have a little, I can't get it all in there. You have on the binder a picture. So the picture actually, so the binders all line up and create a big long picture. So that is probably one of the purposes why they didn't put them all in 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, so on and so forth. And so you have to keep collecting them to try and get the whole picture. But I do not mind that. So I'll read through this little blurb at the back. So, 5 years after he disappeared, Bruce Wayne has returned to Gotham City, determined to wage a secret war on crime. The city is in the merciless grip of the Red Hood gang, many of whose members have been blackmailed into a life of crime by the mysterious Red Hood number 1. Before long, Bruce is forced out into the open and his return becomes public. In order to continue his fight, he decides he must become something more. The Batman. So that is a little blurb on the back. They all have these blurbs on the back, so that's actually really, really good. So we open the first couple of pages. So we have 01, an iconic photo brought back to life in the New 52. And so we have sorry, before every story, we have a little bit of a background on why the story is created. So we have, it talks about in here, so it talks about Frank Miller, it talks about years what happened in 2013, talks about the Court of Owls, so just a bit of a background on why they thought they were going to have to create a story like this. And then we have a background of the story, so a bit of a story before you actually read the book, so you're not just jumping in and not knowing what the hell's going on. So I'll read this for you. So, Return of the Prodigal. So, Bruce Wayne was back in Gotham City, where his wealthy family had resided for over a century. Did the return of the 25-year-old billionaire reflect a change in fortunes for the city? Wayne had seen his parents gunned down before his eyes in Crime Alley when he was only a child. No one would have blamed him for turning his back on his hometown forever. His return suggested a hint of forgiveness, maybe even optimism for the future. The world didn't know what Wayne hadn't The world didn't know that Wayne hadn't moved on from the murder of his parents. In fact, it had shaped his whole life. He had travelled the world, learning to fight like no other man, enduring pain others couldn't imagine. He had travelled with African nomads to learn the bitter art of extreme survival. At the hands of an ex-Soviet espionage master, he had learned to devise solutions to life-threatening traps of all kinds. He had even taught to drive a car from a getaway specialist. At last, he was ready to tackle the underworld that had made his city rotten. With no costume, no superpowered allies, and no gimmicks, he set out to make a difference. Only his butler, Alfred, provided advice and assistance. The Wanderer's return was noticed by his uncle Philip, who had kept Wayne Enterprises afloat in his absence. It was also of interest to James Gordon, the cop who had rushed to the scene of the Wayne murder years before. Would he find a sign of hope in Bruce's return, that the past of his sinful town could be overcome? And it was not unnoticed by the Red Hood, a mysterious criminal who ruled a gang that had infiltrated every level of society, controlling rich and poor, cop and petty thief. Wayne's return did not spell a new era for the metropolis and war between good and evil, but as yet, neither the underworld nor Wayne himself knew that Gotham City would lie protected under the dark wings of a bat. So, this is normally in the front of every one of these books. So, you have a bit of a background before you actually start reading it. I won't read this part from the books unless people actually want me to. Unless you can't actually see, or if you want to pause it, read it for yourself. That's more than okay. So, in this book, it's broken into several parts. So the first part, we start with, if I can find it, the Secret City. So 0 Year Secret City, we go through all the parts of the Secret City. I'm not going to show it all for you. So once we go through the Secret City, then we come to 0 Year Dark City. So, then we go through the Dark City, and that goes throughout the end of the book. So, we have Secret City and Dark City in 0 Year Part 1. Now, in Part 2, I'll read the back of it for you. So, very nice picture at the front. So, the blurb. So, actually, first the contents. So, this has Batman number 27. Remember, this one had number Batman 21 to 26. This has 27. Mrs. 28 has 29 to 33 in chronological order 2. So, with the Red Hood gang's crime wave seemingly at an end, Batman has to face the dual threat of Dr. Death and the Riddler. So this is why I wasn't gonna break it down all for you. So you can actually go through them and find out who Dr. Death is. I had no idea who he was before I started reading this. I knew of the Riddler, And I had no idea of the Red. I knew the Red Hood, but not the Red Hood's gang. Aided by allies Jim Gordon and Lucius Fox, Batman faces a desperate battle to take back control of Gotham City's power supply, and stop the catacombs from being flooded. But will the memories that haunt Bruce Wayne help or hinder his vital mission? So that may, if you don't read part 1, a lot of that's not going to make sense. So that's why I wasn't going to spoil it for you. So you're going to have to read part 1 and go through part 2. So see, we have a little story down here. The story so far. I'm not going to read through that unless people actually want me to actually start doing that. But very, very menacing photo. So as you can see, we go through, this is continued on from Dark City. So Dark City carries on from part 1, and we go through until we get to, where is it? I think I've gone past it. Savage City. So we started off with, I've already forgot what it's called, Secret City, then we have Dark City, then we finish off with Savage City. And then Savage City takes us on for the rest of the book and gives us a preview. Part 3, the next part isn't actually going to Dawn, but I'll go through these in volumes, not chronological order, because I can't have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So, going through these, if it's helpful, awesome. If it's not, then that's a shame. But I just thought some people, because I've looked on YouTube, and there's not really any reviews or shows us what's in these books. So I thought I might do that, try and help some people out and get some people to enjoy some comics, because this collection really got me into comics. So thank you. If you've got any suggestions what I could improve on, what I should change next time, what I shouldn't do, please leave in the comments. Please don't be too brutal, but that any feedback is good feedback. Alright, thank you very much. I hope you enjoyed.